G'day guys, we've just had an absolutely massive amount of information revealed to us for the new World Eaters Codex. Basically, GW did a battle report using the World Eaters over on Warhammer Plus, and I've watched the whole thing, scoured through it, pulled out all the information that you guys are going to want to know if you don't have Warhammer Plus and you want to know what's going to be happening in this new upcoming World Eaters Codex. There's some really spicy stuff in there, so make sure you watch all the way to the end and catch all of the spicy goodness that's coming for World Eaters. Whether you're a World Eaters player or not, it's still going to be massively relevant because there's some stuff in there that I think is going to really shake up the meta and do some serious damage. So with that being said, we're going to jump into the video, but before we do, I just want to shout out to my Patreon. For $4 a month you can sign up. You automatically enter our monthly competition, which is going to be giving away a 3D printed Angron. So all you have to do is sign up to enter, you're automatically in. The Angron will be in your hands before the World Eaters Codex even hits the shelves, which means you'll have time to build and paint it so that when that Codex is in your hands, you're ready to go and you can hit the tabletops running straight away. So with that being said, let's get stuck into these new rules.
Blood for the Blood God!
Alright, so the first new rule is called Lord of the Arena. In your command phase, select one friendly World Eaters core or World Eaters character unit within 6 inches of this model until the start of your next command phase. Each time a model in that unit makes an attack, you can reroll the hit roll. Alright, so this is an ability on Angron. In the battle report, he used this on himself in the first turn and then went in and did a first turn charge and killed a whole ton of stuff. So it's really exciting. He can do it on himself, he could do it on Khorne, he could do it on any of the units of Berserkers. Really powerful Chapter Master style reroll hits. This is also really spicy because they have got some rules where 6s to hit grant additional hits or 6s to hit do auto wounds. So that being said, fishing for those 6s to hit is going to be really relevant. So this is a very relevant ability. Alright, next up we have some information on how the Blood Tithe works. If every unit from your army has the World Eaters keyword, excluding models with the Agents of Chaos and Unaligned keyword, you can gain Blood Tithe points over the course of the battle, as described below. Keep a note of your Blood Tithe points total. So each time a unit is destroyed, you gain 1 Blood Tithe point. At the end of any phase, if a character, monster, or vehicle unit was destroyed that phase, you gain 1 additional Blood Tithe point. And at the end of each phase, if any Titanic units were destroyed that phase, you gain 1 additional Blood Tithe. Alright, so there's a few interesting things of note here. It doesn't say that they have to die in melee. So World Eaters army can shoot down a vehicle in a shooting phase, generating 2 Blood Tithe points. Then they can charge one and kill it, generating another 2 in the fight phase. So you're able to rack up a ton of Blood Tithe points very fast. The bloke in this battle report was just spending them willy-nilly. He was spending them multiple times per phase because he just had so many Blood Tithe points. It was really cool. It's also worth noting that the unit dying can be friend or foe. So if your own units die, you get Blood Tithe points. So I predict that the World Eaters armies we're going to see are going to be a lot of MSU, a lot of multiple small units running around because every time one of those units dies, you're getting a Blood Tithe point. So you don't want to do really big, chunky 10-man Terminator units. You want to run lots of units of 5, little dorks running around just to generate those Blood Tithe points. It also means that those cultist-looking dudes, the jackals, they're going to be really relevant because they're going to be easy to kill. They're cheap units, so you can pack a ton of them into your list, send them forward, let them all die, and generate a ton of Blood Tithe points. Alright, next we have one of the relics that they revealed, which is called the Berserker Glaive. This relic replaces an Exalted Chain Blade or Axe of Dismemberment and has the following profile. Berserker Glaive, melee, strength +2, AP 3, 2 damage, and each time an attack is made with this weapon, an unmodified hit roll of 6 scores 2 additional hits. So like I said before, this pairs really well with Angron's ability to give you reroll hits because now every 6 to hit is generating 2 additional hits. And there are further ways of getting more exploding 6s. So you can make a Berserker Lord just go absolutely mental with this weapon and get a shit ton of hits. Really good for killing those new Marines that are going to be running around everywhere. Alright, next we have a 1 CP stratagem called Gore Dismemberment. Use this stratagem in the fight phase when a World Eaters core World Eaters character unit from your army is selected to fight. Until the end of the phase, each time a model in that unit makes an attack, an unmodified wound roll of 6 Inflicts 1 mortal wound on the target in addition to any normal damage. A maximum of 6 mortal wounds can be inflicted each time this stratagem is used. So this is pretty spicy, and it's going to help you get through those tough targets that you may be struggling to do damage to because they're toughness 8 or toughness 9, and they've got a 2-up save, and they've got an invulnerable save, and they've got neg 1 damage, or whatever those durability buffs are that people like to bring to the table to make their units really tough to kill. This is going to be an amazing way of just going, cool, you're probably going to take 6 mortal wounds as well, because I have a ton of attacks, and I'm going to be rolling a ton of wound rolls, and every one of those 6s is going to do a mortal wound in addition. Alright, next we have the Blood Surge, which is an ability that goes on Khorne Berserkers. Each time an enemy unit is selected to shoot, if any of those attacks target this unit, after the enemy attacks have been resolved, if any models from this unit were destroyed by those attacks, this unit can make a Blood Surge move. If it does, any actions it was performing fails, then roll 1d6. Each model in the unit can be moved the distance in inches equal to the result, but must finish its move closer as possible to the enemy target unit. This unit cannot end its move within engagement range of enemy units other than the closest enemy unit. A unit cannot make a Blood Surge move in the same turn it disembarked from a just transport, or if it's already within engagement range of enemy units. So there's a few things worth noting here. One is that this is obviously very powerful because if you do take bigger units of Berserkers and they start chipping them down, they're going to get a lot of free movement at that time. It doesn't specify that this is limited to once per phase either, so this is really, really interesting. One of the interesting things that the guy did with this in the battle report is he was actually like 5 inches away from a Grey Knight unit. They shot him, and therefore he got to do this Blood Surge move, and he rolled a 6. So he actually ended the move within engagement range. So in your opponent's shooting phase, you can end in engagement range of them. So that's really, really powerful, and it'll incentivize you to try to get as close to your opponent as possible. Even if you're not within charge range, even if you're not able to do that, try to get as close as possible so that when they shoot you, you can go into them. It also means if you've got Berserkers on an objective or something like that, and they go, cool, I'm going to move up to try to get onto that objective, well, if they shoot you and don't kill you, you're going to be able to essentially do like a heroic intervention style move, but in the shooting phase, which is so much more powerful because then that protects you from any shooting they haven't resolved yet. It also means that they're not able to charge you because you're already in combat with them. So you might stop them from being able to get onto that objective that they were hoping to because they were hoping to charge you to get on the objective, but now you've actually hit them in the shooting phase so they can't move anymore. This is massive. It does play against what I said earlier about the MSU style because obviously if you've only got a unit of 5 Berserkers, the probability of it getting shot, not dying, and then being able to bring enough Berserkers to do relevant damage is quite low. So perhaps you want 1 or 2 big Berserker units and then a shit ton of small ones, perhaps. So we've still got a little bit of playing around to do, obviously, to find out what the optimal loadout's going to be, but either way, this is a very exciting and powerful rule to experiment with and have a play around with. Alright, next we have real exciting, so this is one of the things that you can spend those Blood Tithe points on. Reborn in Blood, 6 Blood Tithe points. Place a destroyed Angron model from your army into Blasphemous Reserves, see Warp Strike opposite, with 8 wounds remaining. That model is no longer considered to be destroyed and can be set up again in your reinforcement step as if it had the Warp Strike ability. Alright, so this is obviously insane, being able to resurrect Angron. The bloke did it twice in one battle because he was just generating so many Blood Tithe points and Angron kept dying. As we've seen, Angron's not the most durable unit in the game, but being able to resurrect him multiple times throughout the game makes him pretty goddamn durable when you think about it. And yeah, the other thing worth noting here with the Blood Tithe points is it was not 100% clear in the video when you would spend these things. It's not. I would have imagined it would be a command phase thing, but it appears to be a just whenever thing because he was doing it, at various times throughout the game. So this could be they kill your Angron and they're like, fuck, he's going to resurrect it, and you can hold your Blood Tithe points until, just before you want to resurrect him essentially, and you can go, cool, it's actually my movement phase now, so I'm going to resurrect Angron, and now in my reinforcement steps I'm going to drop him down. Or you can save those Blood Tithe points for many other really powerful abilities that the World Eater is going to have access to. So that's a really exciting one as well, but let's keep going with these exciting new rules. Alright, Aggressive Intervention. It's a 1 CP stratagem. Use this stratagem in the Heroic Intervention step of your opponent's charge phase. Select one World Eater's core unit from your army. Until the end of the phase, that unit is eligible to perform a heroic intervention as if it was a character unit, and is eligible to perform a heroic intervention if it is within 6 inches horizontally and 5 inches vertically of enemy units. When performing a heroic intervention with that unit, you can move each model in that unit up to 6 inches. All other rules for heroic intervention still apply. So this is absolutely bonkers. A 6-inch heroic intervention on all core, so your Khorne Berserkers get a 6-inch heroic intervention. That makes them so terrifying. If there's a unit of Berserkers on objective, you simply can't just walk up and toe in on it and steal it from them. They don't play that shit. If you try to steal their objectives, they're going to get in combat with you. So no more situations where you've got 4 or 5 on an objective and somebody puts a couple of obsec bodies on there and steals it from you. That's no longer a threat. Even if you've got a couple of 8-bound on there, because 8-bound are, I believe they have core. Based on what he was doing in this battle report, it suggests that he had core on them. So being able to do it with 8-bound and heroically intervene is also really, really powerful, because you can put 3 on there and they maybe they don't have objective secured. So people are going to try to put one objective secured model on there and be like, cool, that's my objective now. And you could be like, nope, heroically intervene, shredded. So really, really powerful. Heroic intervention is one of those things that in the skilled hands can be an absolute game-changing thing. And being able to do it army-wide, more or less, on all of your units that are core is really, really powerful. Alright, next we have probably the most exciting one for me, which was Bloodscent. If this unit is in strategic reserves, it can be set up as if the battle round was 1 higher than it currently is, regardless of any mission special rules. Note, this means the unit can be set up on the battlefield during the first battle round. Alright, so now this was used on the 8-bound. So they basically, in the battle report, he outflanked them or put them in strategic reserves, and then they came on from a table edge turn 1. So this is fucking crazy. So turn 1 deep strikes are a really powerful thing. People spend massive amounts of points to bring drop pods to be able to do it, or dread claws to be able to do it. So being able to just do it without having to buy any upgrades on these 8-bound means that I think 3 units of 8-bound is going to be in almost every list, because then you can just go, cool, turn 1, they're all coming on from the sides, they're going in for those charges, and there's pressure on your opponent from turn 1 is really, really powerful. It is strategic reserve, so they do come in from table edges, which means that it's a little bit easier to screen if your opponent has the tools to do so, but it's still insane. Alright, next we have another Blood Tithe point, Spiteful Nullification. Until the end of the battle, each time a World Eater's model from your army would lose a wound as the result of a mortal wound, roll 1d6. On a 5+, that wound is not lost. So 5 up for Feel No Pain against mortal wounds is really, really powerful, but the thing that struck me here is that it's from the time you use this stratagem to the end of the battle. So you spend 2 Blood Tithe points early in the game, and boom, for the rest of the game, army-wide, 5 up Feel No Pain against mortal wounds. So in certain matchups, things like this are absolutely insane, because it's an army-wide, entire game benefit, and you'll be generating 2 Blood Tithe points within the first half of the first phase, because shit's going to be dying like crazy. All you have to do is kill 1 enemy unit, and if it's a vehicle, boom, that's 2 Blood Tithe points. So being able to rack up those points fast is going to be really critical, because if you go first, say you're going up against a real psychic heavy army, you go first, you go, cool, I popped your Rhino with my Land Raiders las cannons, that's 2 Blood Tithe points. Now, the second you go into your opponent's phase, just before they do their psychic powers, you're like, boom, 5 up Feel No Pain army wide, your move, mate. So this is going to be really, really powerful. I see this being used a lot, and the fact that it lasts all game means I think you're going to see these things used very early. Next we have Rage Fueled Invigoration. So this is 3 Blood Tithe points. Until the end of the battle, add 1 to charge rolls made for World Eaters units in your army. So army-wide, +1 to charge rolls means that those strategic reserves that are coming in are much more likely to make their charges. It means that your guys that are disembarking and moving up the table from their transports, much more likely to make their charges. It's army-wide, and it lasts for the whole game. There's going to be, I think with the Blood Tithe points, it's going to be one of those things, and this is the perfect situation where you're going to be generating a lot of points, you're going to have a lot to spend, but there's a lot of really good options to spend them on. So you're going to be like, this is a good problem to have. It's like being really, really rich in a candy store. Like, you're going to have so many options, and they're all good, and you can afford lots of them. All right, next we have Blood Frenzies. This is 1 CP or 2 CP. Use this stratagem in the fight phase when an enemy unit is selected to fight. Select 1 World Eater's core unit from your army that is within engagement range of that enemy unit. Until the enemy unit's attacks have been resolved, each time a model is selected in the selected unit is destroyed by a melee attack, If that model has not fought this phase, do not remove it from play. The destroyed model can fight after the enemy unit's attacks have been resolved, and then the removed model play. If selected World Eaters unit is a troops unit, this select stratagem costs 1 CP, otherwise it costs 2. So World Eaters have got fights on death for a command point. This is really, really good, and one of the ways that you can use this is you can basically go into 2 charges, knowing that your opponent's going to either make one of them fight last or is going to make you, whatever, and then you fight with that one, they interrupt, fight with that one and kill you, but then you go, cool, 1 CP on my Berserker unit because they're a troops unit, and then they fight as well. So it's a really smart and solid way to get around those fight last mechanics that always ruined World Eaters times, or get around those CP interrupts, the counter offensives that really made it hard for a World Eaters player to dominate the fight phase because your opponent would just interrupt you and out of sequence you. So now you can sort of let them out of sequence you. It's not that big of a deal because you're going to fight on death anyway. And we've all seen from the last couple of months of Creations of Bile dominating tabletops how powerful fight on death can be. Alright, Martial Excellence. So this is 5 Blood Tithe points. Until the end of the battle, each time a World Eaters model from your army makes a melee attack, an unmodified hit roll of 6 scores 1 additional hit. So 5 Blood Tithe points to get you essentially into Wanton Slaughter, and this is another thing that stacks really well with Angron's ability to give you full rerolls to hit, because now every one of those 6s is going to be an exploding 6 and get you extra hits, so you can basically fish for 6s. You can reroll everything that's not a 6 and try to get those additional hits, which is really, really powerful, especially when there's something that on average dice, you're not going to kill the target, say a knight or something big like that, and you need it dead. You can then fish for 6s and hope, because if worst case, you spike low, but you weren't going to kill it anyway, so it's not that big of a deal. But if you spike high and get lots more 6s, you might actually kill it and then potentially win the game based off the results of that combat. So there's times when you will absolutely want to go, cool, I know this was a hit, but I'm going to reroll it anyway because I really want it to be an additional hit. So that's really powerful. So there will be times when you have to do it. It is 5 Blood Tithe points, which is on the expensive end, but it's still very, very cool. Alright, and then last but not least, we have Skulls for the Skull Throne, which is use this stratagem when an enemy warlord is destroyed by a melee attack made by a World Eaters character from your army. Select one or both of the following. The first one is you gain 2 Blood Tithe points, and the second one is until the end of the battle, add 1 to advance and charge rolls for that World Eaters character. If you select one of those options, it only costs 1 CP. If you select both, it costs 2 CP. Alright, so this stratagem is also really, really cool. It's a little bit iffy because you have to kill their warlord and it has to be with one of your characters, so that's a little bit tricky to do. But being able to just spend a CP to generate Blood Tithe points effectively means that you can view any of those 2 Blood Tithe point abilities as costing a CP. And it also means that your ability to engage in the higher level Blood Tithe points, the more expensive Blood Tithe bonuses, is much easier because you can just throw an extra couple of CP into your Blood Tithe points into your pool. So that's really, really cool. The +1 to charge rolls and stuff on the character themselves is interesting. That being said, this is probably going to happen relatively late game because people generally protect their warlord, which means you're probably only going to be making maybe 1 more charge roll. So I think more often than not, when this stratagem is used, you're only going to use it to gain those Blood Tithe points, particularly if you're budgeting for a specific thing that you want to achieve later in the game. Or if your opponent has a particularly aggressive warlord that dies early in the game, then you might spend the 2 CP to get both of these abilities. So that sums up more or less all of the rules that were shown during the battle report, but there were a few things that were quite interesting that they mentioned. One of them is that Khorne's Gorechild is now AP 4 and 3 damage. That was the thing that had me pause. When I saw that, I was like, oh, Khorne is fucking back. Because one of his biggest problems previously was that the Gorechild he was actually relatively bad in combat. If there was something that was like 3 damage Terminator, 3 wound Terminators, Khorne was just like, cool, I go in and I kill like 2 of them. He's lost his fight twice ability, which we already know, but basically now he's going in with 10 attacks that are going to be relatively high strength, with exploding 6s if you use Blood Tithe points, with reroll hits if you use Blood Tithe points. Tons of stuff there. AP 4. 3 damage. He's going to be an absolute blender again, where he belongs. And then further to this, he also has an aura, 6-inch aura, of reroll 1s to wound, which he applies to himself. So that must be something that applies to characters in core, or characters in infantry perhaps. And this was used on the World Leaders Berserkers, it was used on the Terminators, it was used on the 8-bound, it was used on himself, rerolling 1s to wound. So now you're going to have Angron giving things full rerolls to hit, and then you're going to have Khorne giving them reroll 1s to wound. I think those two are going to be best buds, and I think they're going to be hanging around a lot. And it's going to be really interesting to see Khorne, Berserkers running up the table, Angron going in, dying, coming back, going in, dying, coming back. That's so fucking on theme for a World Eaters army. It's going to play exactly how you want it. Very suicidal, very rapid, very fucking aggressive. I was watching this battle report and I was like, I'm traditionally not a huge fan of battle reports, particularly the ones that GW do, because they're not competitively focused, so they don't really apply to what I sort of view 40k as and the way I play 40k. But this battle report had me on the edge of my seat. I was like, oh yes! I had to pause it every 5 minutes and be like, that's fucked! So I'm really fucking excited for this World Eaters book. I hope you guys are as well. Thanks for tuning in. I really appreciate your support, whether it be through liking, subscribing, commenting, that sort of shit, or whether it be through direct support through Patreon, picking up a shirt like this one from our Teespring account. All this shit's in the comments below if you would like to, or in the description below if you'd like to show your support. We also have objective markers, all kinds of merch. So every time somebody buys one of those, I get a little bit off the top. And that allows me to get better lighting, better camera equipment, better microphones, increase the schedule, increase the frequency in which I'm able to put these videos out. So really do appreciate your support over on the Patreon particularly. We have a great Discord community where we have lots of really good chats. I do one-on-one coaching with people as well as general hobby updates and just general hangs and chats. So if you want to check that out, join the Patreon, join the Discord, and yeah, I'll see you guys in the next one. Cheers.
Belong to the Blood God.